Welcome to the Apple a Day podcast. My name is Michelle Apples. If you don't know me, I am the founder of the Christian Singles Hub, a space where Christian singles can be equipped with the resources they need to grow towards greatness, put their faith in action, and to date with purpose. Healthy relationships only come from healthy individuals. So join me every Wednesday as we interview some incredible guests and give you all the wisdom you need to steward your singleness better. We hope you enjoy the show, and don't forget to check out our website at thechristiansingleshub.com. Welcome back to another episode of an Apple a Day podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Apples. And so glad you guys are here listening. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, I'm talking about marriage, and the realities of marriage and life after being single and when you get married. And for those of you that don't know me, I got married about 4 months ago. So very newlywed. It's been a lot of fun, but also a lot of a learning lesson. So those of you that may not know, my husband and I were currently on a full US tour. We're hitting 48 states, 82 stops within 12 months to host gatherings for Christian singles all across the United States and maybe even into some of Canada. So we are super excited. We're currently on mission. It's awesome. We're sitting in sunny Florida right now, and it's glorious, as it's apparently cold everywhere else. So, yeah, just really want to talk about the realities of marriage because I think as a single, you can look forward to this day. You can desire this day to that when you're married and you have a spouse and you're doing life together. And I think it's so important to pick the right person for you. And don't say that lightly because marriage is not easy. I feel like it's been quite the transition season. I mean, we went from living in a home to an RV, but also being single to being engaged to being married very quickly. And there's been a lot of transitions. There's been a lot of stressors that come with transitions that typically could take people out or just really make people frustrated. But the good thing about when you're with someone who God has for you and you're running the race is you truly are just doing life with your best friend, and things do tend to roll off a lot easier. So that's been great. But another thing that we've had to navigate being newlyweds is, for some of you that might not know, I've had a back injury for the last 2 years that I honestly, it's one of those things when you're in pain every single day that it just chips away at you little by little, slowly but surely. And definitely had my moments of frustration recently, just trying to navigate that, trying to figure that out. We've been to doctors after doctors. We've gotten MRIs and X-rays. I'm in physical therapy currently. I've had injections and so many things. And so the reality is that my husband is incredible and he's so patient and so loving and so kind. He's willing to go above and beyond for me in a time where I feel like for me there's a frustration of not being able to be my best in this season, walking into marriage and having this hindrance of my back. There's times where I can't clean because it's too painful. I can't vacuum. I can't Swiffer, cook dinner. I can't wash dishes because being on my feet that much, it's just really challenging, or standing in one spot is really challenging. There's days where I can't bend down to tie my shoe. I'm in so much pain, and he's able to do that for me. And truly, it's not something I would have expected walking into marriage and having to navigate and to figure out. And so I think the reality when it comes to marriage is find someone who will pick you up when you fall. Find someone who will run this race with you, but also take care of you when you're not your best, because marriage isn't 50-50. Sometimes it's one spouse doing 100% because the other can only do 0%, or one time sometimes it's the one spouse doing 80% because I can only give 20%. And that's the realities of marriage. Is it's not easy. You navigate things, but you navigate things now together. And it can be really easy to pick the wrong person and have to navigate those things, which then turn into pure chaos. But thankfully, I'm so lucky and so thankful that God um, truly brought us together, knew what we needed. He knew that I would need someone who is a rock and an anchor, which for me is really challenging because I am very independent. I'm very strong-headed and strong-willed and stubborn and feisty. And so to have to rely on someone else is so challenging. But the beauty is that in this season, I am learning to do that better, but I also have someone who makes it so easy to rely on. Makes it so easy. Like if I'm sick, he doesn't leave my side unless he's going to get me things to help me be better. When I can't tie my shoes, like he doesn't moan and groan that he has to do this again, or and make me feel bad that obviously I have limitations sometimes that I can't do the things I would normally want to be doing. And so, yeah, I think it's important that we choose well who we're going to marry, because the reality of marriage is that instead of just doing things on my own, instead of like, on my own, I can just go and have a pity party and lay in bed and not do anything and not see anyone and not have to check in with anyone. When you're married, you don't get that. Like, there's many days I'm like, I just want to throw myself a pity party and stay in bed all day and not do anything because my back hurts and I'm tired of it hurting, and and I can't sleep well because of it. And but he encourages me every day to get up and keep going, and to he really fights alongside me for it. And he's been just such a rock in this season where you're navigating something challenging and something hard, and a lot of transitions along the way. I think that people look at the glorious side of marriage of just like doing all the fun things with someone and like having someone around, but the reality is like there's a lot of hiccups. I mean, we live in an RV, and one night we didn't have heat, another time we didn't have hot water. We've already changed a tire. Um one day we woke up without water. There's been a lot of moving pieces and a lot of navigating, and it would have been so easy for us to end up resenting each other or bitter or angry or fighting or chaos. But truly, we can come together and we can talk. I can talk to him about anything. I don't think there's anything feel I couldn't bring to the surface and just talk about. And I think that's huge, is because even when there's moments of frustration, we just talk about it and we move forward. There's no lingering frustrations. There's no like held on to, it's wild when you have the right person, how amazing it is to walk through those things. But I can tell you that if you choose the wrong person, it's a disaster. And there was actually one time in New York. We went to New York for 6 weeks after we got married, and where I got really sick, and he had a friend in town. I said, "Go hang out with your friend. I'm just gonna probably be sleeping anyways." And he just said, "No, like I'm here, I'm here. Like I want to make sure you're good, and I'm going to take care of you." And I think that was huge for me because it actually brought me back to a previous relationship I had been in where the opposite actually happened. I was sick, and he was like, "Okay, you're good now. I'm going to go and hang out with my friends." And it was just such a night and day reminder of that God really, when God gives you someone, he gives you his best. And it's such a beautiful thing. But the reality is that marriage is hard. I think, like, you're coming together to becoming one. And there's things you don't even think about. I mean, one of the things that was challenging for me was like financially. Um, I worked so long and so hard to like make sure I was doing well for myself. And then to now just be like, okay, I guess we're just putting everything together. And that's that's great when you have someone who's also stewarded things really well, and now together you have an increase and an inheritance. And so I think because of that, it made things a lot easier for me too, and to be able to walk into it and be, good with it. But financials is a big point of contention in a lot of relationships, and I can understand why. Because I couldn't imagine marrying someone who wasn't a good steward of their money, who was poor, made poor choices with their money, that now I have to deal with the sacrifices of that. And I'm just so thankful that obviously my husband is amazing at stewarding his finances, and just being generous and giving, and we don't even have to talk about those things. It's just a automatic, yeah, absolutely. So it's been interesting to see all the changes and transitions and the things that you have to navigate when you go through marriage, and then you put on an immigration process on top of that, which makes everything more challenging. But going through it with someone who really has your back has been awesome. Because so before I met him, I was going through a different immigration process, and it was one of the most challenging, complicated, emotional experiences I think I'd ever been through. And during that time, it really was hard. I was by myself. I mean, I went through it and I got through it and all's good, but like to have someone who truly has your back by your side for this one was just, it was a night and day different experience. And so I think that's the joys and the beauty of marriage. But I think there is a lot of hard that come with marriage. I can't just escape. Like I said, I can't just have a day where I just chill in bed and just don't do anything because I'm feeling all the feels. It's like, no, he encourages me. And I'm sure he'd let me do that too. But it's just different when someone's around all the time because you don't feel like you can do those things. Yeah. And you have someone who's looking at every flaw. Like my back injury has really caused a lot of frustration in my life. And there's days where I wake up and I'm in so much pain and I'm just like, crying because I'm just so over it. I'm so over it. And I believe that God's going to heal me. I believe that with everything in me. But what the doctors are saying isn't pleasant. And so yeah, but I believe that God's going to heal me. And so, but there's still moments of emotion. There's still moments of frustration. There's still moments of feeling limited in what I'm able to do because of something that's just poking at me every day. And, I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's moments that I've gotten frustrated and I've just been angry, and he has to deal with that, and I have to be okay with allowing him to see those sides of me that typically I wouldn't ever have to reveal to anyone because I'd just be on my own. But he's been so patient and so loving and so just amazing in and through it all. I'm so blessed and so lucky, but truly it's revealing inner parts of yourself that you would never usually expose to someone, and now they're with you all the time. I mean, we're literally living in a box in an RV for a year. You can't escape each other. I can't just go upstairs and like go into his different room and hope that, he doesn't hear me. It's like, no, he's right here all the time. And so it's a wild journey to go from one to two and to go from two to one, because you truly are ingrained in every aspect of each other's lives, especially when you live in a box. And so, the good, the bad, the ugly, like you are ingrained in it. And I think, if we look at dating culture today, if we look at society today and what they're saying to date, date the most attractive person, date, on and on. Like, it's wild because that person, just because there's attractive, like, doesn't mean they're a good person, doesn't mean that they'll have that longevity that a relationship needs in marriage, because marriage isn't easy. I mean, you have so many people getting divorces these days, and it's wild to me. But I think it's a big thing is like we're not looking at the character of someone, we're looking at the idea of someone. And when we start looking at the character more than the idea, we actually get the like healthy, godly relationships. I mean, I know a lot of people who are looking at exterior rather than interior when it comes to finding a spouse. And I'm here to tell you, 4 months into marriage, like that will not sustain you. A pretty face will not sustain you. Someone who goes to the gym and works out and like is fit will not sustain you in a marriage, because marriage takes work, and it takes two people fighting together for each other every single day, choosing each other, saying, I choose you, regardless of the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever comes our way, we're going to fight through it. And I think like that needs to be like the new motto when it comes to dating. Like, find someone who will literally go to war with you. And I think that's what I've been able to see in in the past 4 months is like a lot of change, a lot of transition, a lot of communication, a lot of talking and frustrations and dealing with things that you shouldn't deal with at 34 years old, but that's just the way it is. And it's truly like, when I don't have faith, he has faith for me. When I don't feel like doing something, he's my encourager to do it. And so marriage is a beautiful thing, but it's costly. Like, it's not just something that you can just walk into haphazardly. Like, you can't, because there's too much at stake. There's too much at stake. We live in such a dark world these days, where broken families are left, right, and center, and kids are paying the price for that, and father figures are at an all-time low, and the future generations need us. They need us to pick wisely and to be an example of relationships that work. And so, yeah, I think that so often people look at marriage like a fairy tale, or they look at marriage and they think of a wedding day, but they don't actually think about the marriage that comes after the one day event. And so, yeah, I just want to encourage you guys to take inventory. Like, why do you want to be married? What does that look like? What does your life look like when you get married? What are the things that you're going to have to battle together? What are things you can do now, right now, in your singleness, that helps prepare you? I mean, it was so amazing meeting someone who literally had his life together, and I had my life together, and we came together, and it was like we still had to navigate things. And I couldn't imagine trying to build a life with someone who didn't do the work in their singleness, because my husband truly did the work that he needed to do. He healed from a lot of things. He was a great financial steward of his money. He yeah, and money, resources. And so I think it's important that we look at the realities of marriage, and like look at what culture is saying marriage is, and look at the realities of marriage and understand that there's too big of a cost to be walking in it haphazardly. But yeah, that's my episode today. I hope you guys enjoyed realities of marriage. Hopefully I will get a guest on here soon. Just hard being on the road. Internet is awful. So trying to get a guest on when I don't have great internet is also challenging, but hopefully soon we will get a guest on here and talk about all the things. But in the meantime, if you have a topic idea, send it to us. We love to hear it. We have so much going on at the hub. Feel free to check it out. We have retreats and events and all sorts of things. We're going around the whole US. So it's going to be a fun, great year. And we're just super excited to see what God does. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of An Apple a Day. If you liked today's episode, why don't you go like it, share it, subscribe, maybe even send it to a friend, and don't forget to review us. It helps so much. We look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place, on An Apple a Day podcast.